Hey, what is going on, everybody? I feels weird. It's only been a week. It seems like it's been such a long time since I've made a video in the setting. I know I made one for my workplace and one in my car, but it looks like, yeah, if looking at my footage, it looks like just a week ago I had made a video in this setting. So this one, I'm going to talk about an old. Yeah, he was a friend, drinking buddy, an old coworker of mine. When I was a chef at a casino, a Hollywood casino, actually, in Aurora, Illinois. And this guy worked alongside me, and found out really quickly. I think he'd already been there a few years, and he was already pretty well known. There was a bar like right across. The casino was on like one side of the east side of the river, and the west side of the river. Right across from there was a bar. A lot of people, a lot of us used to hang out at after work, on our days off. A lot of people. It was pretty much like a hangout for people that worked at the casino, and I think he was off of work. I'd heard that he had just gotten like a second DUI. He hadn't met this guy yet. Yeah, I heard all these wild stories about him. His first DUI, he actually got on coming home from a Christmas party. I'm not sure how long the cops were tailing him for, but he ended up getting the DUI on his own driveway. And his second DUI wasn't alcohol related. He dyed his hair, and he had a allergic reaction to hair dye, which I've never heard about anybody having. And he had this allergic reaction, and then they gave him Vicodin for it, and he was, I guess, driving under the influence of Vicodin and ended up hitting an off-duty cop. So that was his second DUI. And he was originally from Baltimore, and he was divorced. He had a daughter that was maybe 4 or 5, and really sad in a way because he did go back and forth, in his vacation time. He did go to Baltimore to see his parents, to see this supposed girlfriend. It sounded more like a fuck buddy to me, just somebody to screw. But he considered her a girlfriend. I don't know. I can never make a long distance relationship work for that long, for years on end. And this wasn't the girl he had a kid with. He had a kid with somebody else. This wasn't his ex-wife, but he would always admit it himself. He would say, oh, I wanted to spend more time with my daughter and my parents, but I didn't really spend a whole lot of time with them because I spent so much time over at my girlfriend's house and doing what. And, he just, right off the bat, this guy just really seemed really out there like a total loser. And I think the first time I did go to the bar, I'd been working at this casino for a few months and heard the stories, and I went out to the bar after work this one night, and this guy Chuck was like, yeah, as far as drinking goes, I'm pretty much like a once a week person. And I actually believed that for like maybe a couple hours, because this was like the first night I was drinking with this guy, and he was like falling down drunk. Me and another coworker had to help him to, I think we ended up giving him a ride home. But yeah, the two of us had to hold him up and help him to my car, and I gave him a ride home. And I think I told my mom about that. But yeah, this guy is like she knew he was a drunk after meeting him and being involved in quite a few situations over at my house. And I think I said, yeah, like I can't believe it. Like the first time I met Chuck, he actually told me that he was like a once a week drinker. And my mom's like, oh yeah, starting on Monday and ending on Sunday, drinking the whole week long. And God, there's so many stories. Like this bar, I think he had like a monthly, because he went there so much. It just ended over time, but he had like a monthly tab with them. But someone said, yeah, like Chuck, he owes this bar like $200. And I saw him at work the next day. I'm like, hey, I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but I heard at the bar last night that, you owe them $200. And he claimed that he was already, or there might have been a few days later. I think I said, oh yeah, I heard a few nights ago, you owe that bar like $200 in your monthly tab. And he's like, oh no, I'm paid up. He's like, I was just down there last night, and I never saw this guy eat. This guy was like emaciated, and he got thinner. He was already too thin. This guy was like 30 years old. He was like 5'6", and yeah, probably only weighed like 130 pounds at the most, 140. I mean, he was really sick looking, and as the time went on, he just got more, emaciated, just more like a skeleton. I think the last time I saw him, I was basically friends with this guy for about 3 years, but the last time I saw him, it was like 15 years ago, and I don't even think I'd be surprised if he's still alive. I mean, I don't think he had any health problems, but I mean, I'm pretty sure he's, dead of alcoholism by now. I'd be really surprised if he's still alive, because I mean, last time I saw him, he gave me a hug, and it was like hugging a skeleton. It was so disgusting, and he wasn't anorexic at all, but I never saw him eat. I think he was just so obsessed with drinking. It was like more important than food. I'm not sure the days that he worked, but the days that he had off, like he would just drink the whole day. That's all he would do. Yeah, he'd get up at like 11 o'clock and he'd be drinking from like, 11 o'clock, noon to like, past like 2 o'clock. And we went out to the bar. There were so many nights that like we'd be at the bar at 1 or 2 in the morning, and he would still like invite, anybody who wanted to back to his apartment to drink some more. So I swear to God, like this guy drank probably about, oh man, I'm not sure on his days off, even, his days off, he probably drank like almost the whole day, like 16 hours. Sounds about, 15, 16 hours. But, he got to the point, he was getting so out of control where, his days off, he would, I think he would drink at home, but he'd go down to this bar open at 5, and he'd be waiting out there at 5 o'clock, and he would drink from like 5 o'clock in the evening until like maybe like 9 or 10 o'clock, and then he would go back home, pass out. He'd take a nap for like a couple hours, and he'd be back down there at like 11 or midnight, when we got off work. It's just, man, what a waste of your life. I know when I was 21, like when I was young, I was like, man, that's cool. Like, that was, it was actually a point where alcohol was like the most important thing in my life. Like it was besides like sex, like alcohol was like number 2, but it was like more important than, food, my family, my friends, work, everything. Even though I was a functional, I was showing up to work. I went up to work, really violently hungover quite a few times, but I figured, hey, I chose to drink. I may be hungover, but hey, I'm not going to use that as an excuse to not go to work. I'm going to pay the price. But there was actually a time in my life, I look back on it now, I'm like, oh my God, like alcohol really doesn't matter to me at all anymore. I rarely drink now, and when I do, it's very, very little. As I got older, I can still drink like a 21-year-old, but I can't recover like a 21-year-old. It takes me a lot longer to recover, and the hangovers are a lot worse. And I noticed that around the time I turned 30. That's why after I got married, I got married a week after I turned 30, and that's when I noticed that it was, probably about time to start cutting that hardcore drinking out. But getting back to this friend of mine, Chuck, he just burned so many bridges. It actually got to the point where they were making him pay like drink for drink, even if it was with a credit card. I think he normally paid with cash, but he had a reputation for like walking out on his, like not paying his tabs, walking out without paying. A lot of bars do this now too because they had issues. I honestly, at this bar, I got so drunk a couple times I walked out and forgot to pay. But as soon as I remembered, I took care of it. I went down as soon as possible and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was just so drunk I didn't even realize that I didn't pay." And this guy Chuck, he was just trying to get away with it. He was doing this all the time. And then they started like this rule that if you wanted to start a tab, you had to put a credit card on file. But I don't know if he had credit cards declining or if they were, I don't know what exactly the story was, or if he didn't have credit cards. I'm trying to remember. I think normally he paid cash, but they wouldn't even allow him. They said, oh, I think they banned him a few times, and they let him come back, but they said, yeah, you can come back, but, you got to pay. We're not letting you do tabs anymore. You got to pay drink for drink. That's the only way. And I think he ended up getting banned again. He started hanging out at some other bar. And so many mishaps this guy had, and I'd rather tell somebody I fell flat in my face and I got my ass beat. The most bizarre stories. Well, one night, I think we were... there was one night that he said that he had to go. He's like, which is really unusual because he was always at the bar till closing time. And he's like, I gotta have a discussion with some guy. I'm like, what are you talking about? What guy? And he said, oh, he's like one of my friends. Like this friend of his was a girl. He said, this girlfriend of mine, like, she's a friend, and she got raped by this guy, and me and him are gonna have some words. And I actually, I told people about it. Like, oh, should we go along with you? He's like, oh no, we're gonna do this man to man. And he supposedly went out to meet. He just, he lived to be the center of attention. I think he just got off making up these stories. So he said he went to meet this guy at a certain destination, and the description he gave was like this deserted country road, but it's not like lit up at all. It's a really bizarre story, and it wasn't close either. It was a pretty good distance away, walking at least, even driving. So he came back to the bar like 2 hours later, and he's got like this big gash on his forehead, and the blood's just dripping off his face. I'm like, oh my God, Chuck, like, what the hell happened? I give him some napkins. Like, what the hell happened to you? And he's like, I went to talk to that guy, and we got into a fight, and he hit me in the head with a beer bottle. And that was the story. But one of the regulars at the bar is like, no, that didn't happen at all. Let me tell you guys what really happened. He's like, before he came into the bar, he said, I saw him fall flat on his face. And I was like, I'd rather tell somebody I fell flat on my face. Everybody knew he was a drunk. I mean, he was proud of it. And I'd rather tell people I fell flat on my face than I got my ass kicked. Yeah, and at one point, he was so drunk one night, like he was just about on the verge of passing out. I don't know if he had a cold or whatnot, or just congested, but like I wasn't down there that night, but supposedly like, yeah, he was like, the bartender's like, oh yeah, I cleaned like tons of his snot off the bar last night. I'm like, oh my God. And so even one of the bartenders like, this is really not too good for business. And he also made up a stabbing story. I was thinking it might have been a suicide attempt. He was trying to commit, hara-kiri, you stab yourself in the stomach. But he left again. He left the bar, and he came back all cut up. He had a huge wound in the stomach, and I actually wasn't down there that night, but he was laying on the floor in the bar going like, oh, I'm dying. And, I guess with the way the wound was, the way the knife entered, it made it look like, I think somebody determined by the way that he did it, or by the way it was done, it wasn't somebody else doing it. It was actually, I guess they can actually tell that it was like self-inflicted. That's what their theory was, and I wouldn't be surprised because this guy really did hit rock bottom. And again, this is just not good for business. You got some crazy guy hanging out there like that, and I don't know. I just can't imagine wanting to be the center of attention that bad that you're going to do things like that to yourself, get yourself involved in those kinds of situations. And when he first started working with him, he was living with his parents, and they didn't really, he already got 2 DUIs. They got pissed that he was still drinking, and so then he started spending nights over at other friends' houses, including my house. I was still living with my parents. So this one friend of mine, Lee, and his girlfriend at the time, Sarah, they had an apartment, and they let this Chuck stay over, and he pissed on their couch. He got drunk, passed out on their couch. Slept there, and he didn't tell them about it. He didn't make any effort to clean up. I guess he actually flipped the cushion over, like they weren't going to notice, and they noticed that the cushion was upside down. They turned it over, and there was a huge puddle that smelled like piss. And, if I did something like that, which I never did, I'd apologize. I would, clean it up. If somebody wanted professionally cleaned, I would pay for it. Like, he couldn't even man up. He's, like, trying to hide it, like, like they're stupid. And then it would have happened 2 weeks in a row. It would have happened 2 weeks in a row because the next week we were out drinking. He was asking if he could stay over at their apartment again. And they never brought it up to him. I would call them out on it. They never brought it up to him, and he never admitted to it. And he said, oh, I really want to be alone with my girlfriend tonight. So he's like, well, Jeff, can I spend the night at your house? I'm like, oh, sure, that's fine, And he slept on a couch in my parents' basement, and I had no knowledge of this. So we got up and we went to work the next afternoon. I came home, and my dad told me that my friend Chuck, this guy, he had pissed on the floor. And he didn't tell me about it, didn't make any effort to clean it up. Could have very easily, the concrete floor was sealed. Could have very easily dried up with some paper towels and, gotten some cleaning product. Didn't, yeah, couldn't even do that. I don't know if he didn't even realize that he did it. But yeah, my dad, he didn't know what it was. He got down and he said it smelled like beer mixed with a combination of beer and piss. And I had parents had a rabbit in the basement and used to run around loose a lot in the basement. And I think he said, oh, maybe your rabbit did it. So needless to say, he was never invited over at my house. Well, he actually denied it. He was mad at my parents because he said, oh yeah, Jeff's parents are accusing me of pissing on their basement floor. It's like, dude, you did it, So he didn't want to go over to my house anymore. But oh yeah, that's no loss. And there was actually a limo party. One of the bartenders, it was like his 30th birthday, and there was like 20 of us. We got 2 stretch limos. We were bar hopping all over the place. And again, I had just gotten off work at like 8 o'clock. A lot of them had already been drinking since like dinner time. I think my friend Chuck took this guy Jay and his girlfriend Terry out to dinner. So they were already pretty toasted. And George Harrison from the Beatles had just recently passed away, and I think a Beatles song was playing, and somebody said like, oh, somebody said like, God bless, rest in peace, George Harrison, or God bless George Harrison. And my friend Chuck, it normally doesn't act angry like that. Didn't really act angry like that. No, he was just stupid drunk, but he's like, fuck George Harrison. We could tell that he was in a bad mood. And there was this one girl who was kind of a bitch. Her name was Dana, and she definitely didn't like Chuck. Yeah, not too many people liked her. She didn't really like too many people. I'm not really sure why she hung out at that bar. And she actually had a squirt gun, and I guess it was filled with vodka. And she didn't like this guy Chuck. She didn't like the way he was acting at this particular moment. Kind of glad she did it in a way. He had it coming, even though it was kind of crossing the line. But she took the squirt gun, and it was filled with vodka, and she got him like right, like dead center in one of his eyes. And he got so pissed off. I understand him being pissed off at her, but then he ended up taking it out. I guess he wanted her like kicked out of the limo. He wanted her to be made to go home to leave this limo party. And my friend Jay and his girlfriend Terry, like, no, she's welcome to come along. Like, we had nothing to do with it. She's a friend of ours. She may not like what she did. I understand that pissed you off, but don't get mad at us. We weren't up to it. We had nothing to do with it. And friend Jay ended up, I think he told my friend Jay and his wife, his girlfriend Terry, like, fuck you, fuck both of you. I think my friend Jay said, you're too toasted to go on. You've had enough. Here we were like half an hour away from where we started, from where we all lived. So my friend Jay's like, here's $30, or it might have even been more than that. It might have been $50, I'm not sure. But he's like, here's some money. Get yourself a cab ride home. Go to sleep. You're done. You don't need to have any more to drink tonight. He's like, yeah, fuck you. I'm going on this party.